Today's video is going to be a tier list on Brown Dust 2. And everybody that knows me knows I hate doing tier lists, but the current tier lists out there are not accurate. They did not account for maxing costumes. They also didn't account for attack tile patterns. So because these tier lists are inaccurate, I'm putting one out there. If you end up liking this video, hit the sub button, hit the like button, hit that bell ding ding thing so you know when I post a video. Let's go, baby. I'm going to try to go through this tier list video as fast as possible. I'll leave a link to the tier list in the description below. The lowest tier are heroes you do not want to build unless you're in hard mode and you really want that mono element team, meaning a team of all the same element. They are all 3 stars, there are better 3 stars out there. The tier above them are situational units. These are here for specific instances. Rigonette, you only really want to use her if you're trying to target one person in the back line of the enemy team. Julie, if you need a secondary healer, a cheap one, that would be her. If you're running a damage over time team, Cynthia has an AoE that does that. If you need a win frontline tank, Fred has really good base stats. 5-star Elanir, she does have a good target of attacking the whole front line, but the problem is you gotta save her skill the first round because the enemy doesn't start out with buffs. Rafina, situational again, she removes barrier effects. And our main character Lathel, very situational. You really need his other costumes to shine. The next tier above those are like the average units. You can bring them in a lot of different places. Beatrice, holy moly. At max, she does true physical damage, so she can't crit on this skill. And it's only one target, but it's a low SP cost, which you may have a good team of 4 units, and you need someone to have that last spot. She will one-shot most enemies. If you can fit her in if your SP costs, then she will be able to shine. Carlson is a great frontline tank. 2 SP cost, and he decreases physical damage by 65%. That's for 4 turns. He can have this up all the time. Layla, another decent hero with some SP manipulation. Any unit that acquires SP or takes away SP is really good. Unfortunately, in the collection book, you can't see what they will be at the max skill level. She can use this skill the first round and acquire SP for the next round. This is good for units that you have multiple costumes of, so you can use one costume in round 1 and a second round 2. Bernie, she has a silence at a low SP cost. She uses 3 SP, but also acquires 3 SP, so it literally balances out. If you're using magic damage dealers, Elise is good. She will decrease the magic resist of the enemies. She also charges up that chain damage because she attacks 3 times. As you see chain damage, the more chain you have, the more damage you do. It can stack up to 20 times. So if you have a couple multi-hitters, you start them off first. Put your biggest damage dealer at the last turn, and that damage will increase tremendously. Anastasia, decent hero, gives a self-crit damage buff, attacks 3 times. She's not good early game because of the gear and the crit rate, but if you run her with Araness with a crit rate buff, she will definitely nuke. Seer, a good frontline tank as well. She decreases damage that she takes, and she heals every time she gets attacked. There's better tanks out there though. Alex, someone who was S tier in other tier lists, in my opinion, is just a decent hero. He only attacks 2 targets. It is true physical damage. It's like ignored defense technically. But the problem with true physical damage is 2 things for Alec. 1, it cannot crit. 2, there is someone who does it better, and that's Justia. Eclipse, decent frontline tank. She heals herself while attacking the enemies multiple times, ramping up the chain damage. She decreases the enemy's SP. Rubia, again, another decent hero, has a really good attack tile pattern, but she's a damage over time damage dealer. She can ramp up the chain damage with attacking 3 times, but you really need that type of team comp. She's one who sets up another damage dealer, and hopefully if that damage dealer doesn't kill them off, then her damage over time does. Last for like the average decent heroes. Scheherazade. She has a good attack pattern, she can go down a whole column, removes targets buffs, but the damage isn't really there. I actually like her other costume, which will attack more people, attack 5 times, more setup for chain damage. Alright, now we're getting into the great units you should definitely build early game. Let's start with Emma, underrated unit. She has 2 costumes. One increases her attack tremendously. It's a very low SP cost, which makes her basic attacks hit like a champ. But her other costume is awesome. She will knock an enemy into another enemy, dealing 125% of their max HP to that impacted target. This pretty much one-shots anyone that's not a boss. There's other units like Fred that have this, but he doesn't do 125%. It's only like 75. Both of her costumes low SP costs. Justia, great unit, but not S tier. The only reason she's not S tier is because she does true physical damage. It doesn't crit, you can't build crit damage. Next, Aaron S, probably the best 3-star support in the game. Her maxed out gives an attack buff of 70%. Also increases the crit rate. If you're running magic dealers though, this is not the unit that you want to use. Unless you're running like some attack, some magical units, whatever, at least the crit rate will help them. Maria, another underrated 3-star unit. She attacks 2 times, 200% of magic attack, and she hits 3 people in the same column. She can pretty much clear a lane. Jayden, another great unit, has 2 costumes as of now. If you're dealing with a lot of magic enemies, you can use him as a frontline tank, or you can use his attack, attacking 3 times, doing a lot of damage. Lucretia, another good setup unit, especially for chain damage and round 2. She attacks 2 times, she acquires 3 SP for each attacked target, and this skill only costs 2 SP when maxed. They also get silenced and can't use skills for 6 turns. Lisanne is probably your best healer that is obtainable and easier to max out. Low SP cost, low cooldown time. When maxed out, it's a good heal, plus it removes DOT's, damage over time. This is really good in PvE. Run a secondary healer or like a barrier, and your team will survive. Leclis, one of the best tanks in the game, but not S tier, there are better. She taunts the enemy, which is rare. Not a lot of characters have a taunt, and it decreases incoming damage. That barrier unit we're talking about, that is the only one, and that's Helena. She increases all physical and magical damage incoming to your team. You also acquire 4 SP, so you can follow up with more damage in the second round. Again, I don't know what the max incoming damage is decreased, because we can't check in this collection book, which is silly. Leatrice, I feel very underrated unit. She has a huge AoE tile pattern damage. She attacks 5 times, increasing that chain damage. She also has damage over time, which is huge. You team this up with an S tier unit I'm going to talk about, and the chain damage is crazy. Rue, a good frontline tank. She evades the enemy's attack. Every time she gets attacked, it gets decreased. And she can also knock back enemies, which I believe at max skill it does go up to 125%. So she's gonna one-shot somebody if she knocks someone into another. It's a low SP cost, low cooldown time as well. Gray, a starting character, but in my opinion, a great hero. For him to be able to attack a whole row and to be able to skip a frontline enemy is huge. Plus his damage over time is crazy good. The initial damage isn't burst, but that damage over time can wipe some enemies. Andrew, this is an S tier unit to a lot, but for me, not quite. He's still very good, don't get me wrong. He can decrease an enemy's SP every turn, but really it's about his other costume where again he taunts, and he can evade their attacks. Last for the great units is Cry. Now I've done some testing on Cry. A lot of people think he is God. He is a great unit, don't get me wrong. He attacks enemies twice, he lowers defense by 50%, but it really just depends on your team comp. He's only going to shine if you run physical attack damage dealers, and that's not true physical attacks like Justia or Alec. The defense down is not affected for the true physical damage. Magic users do not get a damage boost for that defense down either. He is a great unit, plus he has a second outfit, which is a low SP cost and can one-shot someone if he gets knocked into someone else. Anybody with multiple costumes is really good, especially if you're manipulating the SP game. Alright, the best units in Brown Dust 2. Sammy. She has 2 costumes, one with a really good attack tile pattern, decreasing magic resist, attacks twice, does really good high damage. But she also has another great costume, which increases attack and magic attack of the whole team, plus gives a heal over time to everyone. I was lucky to already max out the first costume. You guys didn't think Wiggle would be an S tier? I'm telling you, he has the best damage out of anyone. And he's a 3-star. Yes, he dies after. But it doesn't matter if you can line up the enemies perfectly and kill 3, 4, whatever. You got 4 other teammates. Celia, S tier. Attacks 7 times. Also decreases the attack of those enemies. And she has a 9-square tile pattern attack. And she also is a skip attack. 7 times AoE. You line that up with Leatrice and that's 12 chain damage already with 2 people. Sylvia, probably the best tank in the game. Decreases incoming damage coming into her, giggity. That means physical and magical. She also counters every time she gets hit. Put a healer behind her and she's set. The most underrated hero in this game in my opinion. Therese. She doesn't seem very good. It's just one of those knockback heroes. But this skill goes up to 125% when it's maxed out. But the main thing is that it is a row tile pattern. She can knock back 3 units that are all in the same row, knocks them all back 2 squares, and will most likely one-shot the back line. People had her at the bottom of the tier list and it's crazy. I don't think they saw the tile pattern of it being a whole row. Plus, you can set this up really well for other damage dealers. And last but not least on the S tier is Olstein. He acquires SP for every targeted attacked, setting up your team for round 2, also decreasing their SP, which makes your team gain so much advantage on the other team. He also applies a silence where they can't use skills. So that's my explanation of my tier list. The link is in the description if you want to check it out, share with friends, whatever you want to do with it. If you agree, disagree, it's okay. It's a tier list. Constructive criticism is good. Comment down below, tell me your thoughts. If you ended up liking this video, sub, like, ding ding a bell. I'll see you in the next one. Peace!